Clara, don't pray for me. I'm damned. Part 2. Hatred of God. In fact, everything causes us torment. Every knowledge received at the point of death, every memory of things experienced or known, is a stinging flame for us. And all memories show us that side that was grace in them and that we despised. What torment is this? We don't eat, we don't sleep, we don't walk with our feet. Spiritually chained, we watch in a daze with screaming and gnashing of teeth as our life has gone up in smoke, hating and tormented. Do you hear? Here we drink hatred like water. Even towards each other. Above all, we hate God. I want to make it understandable to you. The blessed in heaven must love him, because they see him without a veil, in his dazzling beauty. This beatifies them so much that they cannot be described. We know it, and this knowledge makes us furious. Men on earth, who know God from creation and revelation, can love him, but they are not forced to. The believer, I say this gnashing my teeth, who, thoughtfully, contemplates Christ on the cross, with his arms outstretched, will end up loving him. But he, to whom God approaches only in the hurricane, as a punisher, as a just avenger, because one day he was repudiated by him, as happened to us. He cannot help but hate him, with all the impetus of his evil will, eternally, by virtue of the free acceptance with which, in dying, we exhaled our soul, and which we do not even now withdraw and will never have the will to withdraw it. Do you now understand why hell lasts eternally? Because our obstinacy will never melt away from us. Forced, I add that God is merciful even towards us. I say forced, because even if I say these things deliberately, I am still not allowed to lie, as I would gladly like. I say many things against my will. Even the heat of abuse, which I would like to vomit, I have to strangle. God was merciful to us by not allowing our evil will to exhaust itself on earth, as we would have been ready to do. This would have increased our guilt and our pain. He caused us to die prematurely, like me, or brought about other mitigating circumstances. Now he shows himself merciful towards us, by not forcing us to get closer to him than we are in this remote hellish place. This lessens the torment. Every step that brought me closer to God would cause me greater pain than one step closer to a burning pyre would bring you. You were scared when I once, during a walk, told you that my father, a few days before your first communion, had told me, Anatina, try to deserve a nice dress, the rest is a hoax. I would almost have even been ashamed of your fright. I laugh about it now. The only reasonable thing in that hype was that one was only admitted to communion at the age of 12. At the time I was quite taken by the mania of worldly entertainment, so without scruples I put religious things to one side and did not give great importance to my first communion. The fact that many children now go to communion at the age of 7 makes us furious. We do everything we can to make people understand that children lack adequate cognition. They must first commit some mortal sins. Then the white particle no longer causes great damage in them, as when faith, hope and charity still live in their hearts. Yuck. This stuff, received in baptism. Do you remember how I have already held this opinion on earth? I mentioned my father. He was often in arguments with his mother. I alluded to it only rarely. I was ashamed of it. How ridiculous is the shame of evil! For us everything is the same here. My parents didn't even sleep in the same room anymore, but me with Mom and Dad in the adjoining room, where he could come home freely at any time. He drank a lot. In this way, he squandered our assets. My sisters were both employed and themselves needed, they said, the money they earned. The mother began to work to earn some money. In the last year of his life, Dad often beat Mom when she didn't want to give him anything. Towards me, however, she was always loving. One day, I told you about it and you, then, were offended by my whim. What weren't you offended by towards me? One day he had to bring back, twice, the shoes he had bought, because the shape and heels were not modern enough for me. The night my father was struck by a fatal apoplexy, something happened that, for fear of a disgusting interpretation, I was unable to confide in you. But now you need to know. It is important for this. Then for the first time I was attacked by my current tormenting spirit. I slept in a room with my mother. Her regular breaths spoke of her deep sleep. Then I hear myself called by name. An unknown voice tells me, "What will happen if Dad dies?"